city roads right now. A little bit snowpacked, also black ice on the roads as well. We're taking it slow, feels like 16 below zero. Remember, wind chill advisory in effect until 11 o'clock.
With traffic to go, I'm John Thomas. Hazardous travel can be found all across the region with snowy and icy conditions still on the roads. Lots of black ice, not just on the interstates, but also on city streets. And if you travel around the area of 60th and Center, be prepared for lane restrictions in all directions due to that water main break the other day. That'll continue into next week.
So watch coverage continues now at 6:54 in the morning commute. Full swing along the icy interstates this morning.
Extreme caution still advised as the winter storm clears out of the area. KTV News Watch 7 Adrian Whitman is live on the road patrol with Live Mobile 7. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning, Nicole. We're just reaching the 680, 480, 75 interchange, heading back into downtown on I-80 right now. And I got to tell you, the black ice is still out there, but we've seen clouds out all morning, and some of the areas that we've seen them lay down salt as we've made a second pass over seems to be helping right now, reducing that those slippery conditions out there. So that is a good thing as this morning rush gets on this morning. The clouds, they were also clearing the remaining snow at 72nd and Dodge, just trying to make your morning drive a little bit better and just trying to get control of the ice now that the extreme cold has set in. And that is one of the other problems here this morning, that extreme cold. You'll want to make sure that you bundle up if you do have to head outside and go to work this morning. And once you get onto the interstates or Dodge Street or even some of the residential areas, you do need to be careful about the black ice. It's usually underneath the snow, but there are some patches where you won't even notice it's there until it's too late. So take it easy out there, as always, in these conditions. Nicole?
All right, Adrian Whitman reporting live from Live 7 Mobile. Thank you. We'll now look at school closings in the metro.
Omaha public schools are closed as Bellevue, Council Bluffs, and Elkhorn.
Millard, Papillion, La Vista, Ralston, Westside also closed, but Westside teachers do need to report. Lincoln Public and Catholic also closed. Omaha police are still looking for the shooter responsible for gunning down a man inside his own home.
24-year-old Quincy Coleman was shot Tuesday night near 21st and Pinckney around 8:45. Coleman later died at the hospital. Call Crime Stoppers at 444-STOP if you have any information.
Here's John Thomas with one last look at...
We've been telling you all morning, here and there, all across the metro and the region, too, so exercise extreme caution. Slick roads, likely result of a trio of accidents this morning, including one at 38th and Ames, and a car sliding off the road on I-80 eastbound just before 60th.
All right, that's right, the wind chill advisory all morning.
Wind chill advisory until 11 o'clock this morning. I think we'll see wind chills at times approach 20 below zero here in the Omaha metro. Let's take a look at your planning for the remainder of today. 4 degrees by noon, still a little bit breezy. Northwest winds about 15 to 20 miles per hour. Otherwise, by 4 p.m., more sunshine, mostly clear and cold. High temperatures today only in the single digits. And I think tonight by 9 o'clock, 1 degree, and overnight, we're talking about temperatures 5, 6 below zero. The wind's just not quite as bad tomorrow morning compared to what we're seeing this morning. Either way, cold forecast.
A reminder, it is National Signing Day. Huskers expected to sign at least 18 recruits. Hopefully, will not hold a news conference. He will do a teleconference instead. That's KT News Watch 7 First News.
724.
The blizzard of 2011. The potentially catastrophic storm brings record snow, dangerous ice, and fierce winds to half the country. 4-foot drifts in Chicago. Drivers stranded in the heart of the city on historic Lakeshore Drive.
No one knows anything. Everything's frozen. Nothing's moving. I mean, it's just like insane.
Snow so heavy, rooftops collapse. Ice so thick, power lines snap. Roads so slick, entire highways shut down. And breaking this morning, an ice storm warning from Philadelphia to New York, bringing these big cities to a slippery halt. We're live with the latest on the storm and where it's headed right now on GMA.
Live across the storm zone, this is a special edition of Good Morning America, the Blizzard of 2011, with Robin Roberts and George Stephanopoulos.
And good morning, everyone. And for much of the country, what a morning it is, because by some estimates, this could be the worst snowstorm in almost half a century. And in the blizzard's bullseye right now, Chicago. No flights in and out of O'Hare today. And across the country, more than 11,000 flights canceled since the storm started.
And of course, driving is treacherous all across the Midwest. I-70 Missouri completely shut down. Here in the Northeast, Amtrak has stopped service between New York and Philadelphia. Freezing rain and ice are the problem here, especially when you go to the streets of New York City and Philly. You'll see ice just swimming. The streets trying to kick it off the sidewalk right there. The morning commute is just going to be a mess today. We've got our team of correspondents all across the country tracking the impact of this huge storm. And Sam Champion leads us off from the epicenter, Chicago.
Good morning, George, from the middle of Michigan Avenue in Chicago, which is normally pretty busy. The wind and the snow, blizzard conditions here through the course of about 12 hours. The wind and the plows have cleared the roads, but let me show you what's on the side here, the drifts that are at least up to your hips. I can't even get down to the sidewalk in this. That's the snow part of this storm. Now the ice part of the storm is headed east. Overnight, thunder, snow, and lightning shocked Chicago residents. In Glenwood, Minnesota, heavy snow caused this roof to collapse at a local hardware store. 12-foot waves slammed the icy banks along Lake Michigan, and in Kansas City, this 18-wheeler flipped on its side off the road into a ditch. 13.6 inches of snow had fallen in Chicago, a record for O'Hare Airport. By 6 a.m., a foot and a half covered the street in 40 to 60 mile-per-hour winds. The winds here in Chicago are about 42 miles an hour. In order to be a blizzard, they have to be 35 miles an hour for 3 consecutive hours, reducing the visibility to a quarter mile. It looks like this storm has the power. Chicago City firefighters traveled on 50 snowmobiles to help stranded drivers like this push their cars to safety. Even iconic Wrigley Field was damaged in this storm. Other commuters were trapped in standstill traffic on Lakeshore Drive for 5 hours.
Everything's frozen. Nothing's moving. I mean, it's just like insane.
It's a parking lot. There's no lanes because everyone is facing every direction you can imagine. All the cars are rocking because the winds are so high.
Also a parking lot, Chicago's O'Hare Airport. One air traffic controller broke the bad news to a pilot hoping to take off.
Well, we won't get back up tonight. I doubt it, though. We'll go now. We're done. They canceled it.
Further west in Oklahoma City, the second snowiest day ever. A foot of snow crippled the town. Stranded cars lined the ditches along the highways. Our ABC News' Ryan Owens braved the storm.
It's not just all of this snow, but the howling winds that are creating near whiteout conditions and a miserable wind chill of 30 degrees below zero.
In Tulsa, a daily snowfall record for February, 14 inches. Today, for the first time ever, the local newspaper, the Tulsa World, will not print. Throughout the Midwest, snow fell at a rate of 1 to 3 inches per hour. In places like Kansas City, with wind gusts over 40 miles an hour, drivers struggled through whiteout conditions. When you see snow like this, drifts like this in the middle of downtown Chicago, you know the lake effect made it much worse. And our Chris Bury is on Lakeshore Drive where so many of those cars were stranded. Chris?
Good morning, Sam. This is like a winter hurricane. I'm standing in the northbound lanes of Lakeshore Drive, the Chicago iconic street along Lake Michigan. Normally, cars would be whizzing by at 40 or 50 miles an hour. Instead, the blizzard conditions and many accidents have left dozens of cars stranded. Most of these people have abandoned their cars. Some ran out of gas. Others farther north have been stuck in their cars for as much as 12 hours. All night long, rescue efforts have been underway. Ambulances trying to get...
They've been out of the cars. Well, as you can imagine, with the conditions as they are, they're very difficult to hear, but we're going to get back to our team in Chicago in just a moment. But it's not just the snow. It's also the ice, of course, causing all the chaos. And there's a rush hour travel advisory right here in New York City urging people to use public transportation. And here's what we're hearing about the thickness of the ice. In Indiana, about, well, an inch thick. And just north of New York City, we're more than a half of inch of ice there. And this is where the current ice threat that we've been talking about, this is what we're seeing right here. Philadelphia, this deep purple area right here. Philadelphia, Delaware, into New York, of course, and Connecticut and beyond. And let's get an update now from Barbara Pinto in hard-hit Indianapolis. Barbara?
Hard hit is right, Robin. This is what we're dealing with here today. This may look like snow, but it isn't. Everything here is coated with about an inch of ice. It is thick enough to skate on. From Texas to Ohio, all the way into the Northeast, the icy fist of this storm continues to rain down on 12 states.
Go ice is covering everything. So you can see the American flag is frozen stiff.
Crews have been out on the roads all day.
The biggest concern for the power companies is when tree limbs are covered in ice on power lines.
Indiana saw more than an inch of ice accumulate overnight.
How useful is the plow in this weather?
There is
isn't anything that we can do about it.
That ice combined with snow to form a slippery and dangerous mixture.
This is like having ice skates on your car.
This 15-car pileup shut down I-70 both ways between St. Louis and Kansas City, the first time in Missouri's history. And almost 300 miles of I-44 was shut down from Springfield, Missouri to Oklahoma City.
Very nerve-wracking.
An estimated 1 million Americans could be without power by this afternoon. So far, at least 79,000 people have lost power in Illinois, 64,000 in Indiana. The Midwest and the East Coast are waking up this morning to scenes like this. Downed power lines caused by tree branches falling or too much ice freezing on the lines.
Weather forecasts are still saying anywhere from another half inch to inch ice build up on the lines. That, accompanied with the winds that they're predicting with wind gusts up in the 35 to 40 mile an hour range, will cause problems.
These lines are only built to hold a half inch of ice, which could weigh up to 1,000 pounds. More than that, they're likely to snap. We're feeling that bad news in the forecast. Heavy winds have moved in, gusts up to 40 miles per hour. That's enough to bring down limbs and power lines coated in ice. Robin?
All right, Barbara, thank you. And to get a better sense of what's going on here, we spoke to FEMA Director Craig Fugate a few minutes ago about the storm and the turmoil it's causing all across the country.
This is going to be key today. Are these the kind of power outages where they're able to get power back on quickly, or are these caused by more of the icing where it's more damage? And again, with these very cold temperatures and high wind conditions, it's going to be really important to find out how long it's going to take to get power back up. And that's what FEMA's been doing, is getting ready to support governors if they need additional generators of support. And so we're still in a standby mode to help, but we are prepared.
And you're standbying to help in what regard? I know you have to wait and see what the needs are, but what are you prepared to do?
Right now, the biggest focus would be on things such as generators for critical facilities and supplies for if they have to start opening up more shelters, food, water, infant formula supplies for children. And so these are things we were moving in anticipation that we may have some requests. Our role, again, is support, but we're there with supplies if needed.
So if someone is in need, if somebody is in, they're getting hit hard, what should they do?
Contact 911. This response, again, it's important to understand FEMA is a support agency. The real heroes right now are these local responders that are still going out in the storms, rescuing people, still running emergency calls, local, Department of Transportation, as well as National Guard units that are in support. So this is really, these types of disasters, local responders, the state's governor supporting them. And again, so far we've not had to do anything beyond being in prepared mode, but we're ready to go.
We're glad that you're at the ready, Director Fugate. Thank you very much. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get back to the Northeast, where we're dealing with this huge storm and ice right as the morning commute begins. Lindsay Davis is outside Boston with the latest on conditions there. Lindsay?
Good morning, George. So here we go. Round 2 is in full effect. Now, areas northwest of Boston, that's gotten hardest hit yesterday with 8 inches. We're expecting another 3 to 6 inches later on today. The all-time
slush, freezing rain, everything. This is what the roads look like here in Milford, Connecticut this morning. We had some snow and slush fall down early, then came the sleet and the freezing rain, and now it has all just come into a skating rink right now. This is just glare ice basically we're driving on. The problem with this storm is not in the going. You're not going to get stuck in big piles of snow. The problem is in the stopping, because you never know when you're going to run out of action, and all this ice is threatening to bring down limbs and power line. It's also hampering the efforts to get rid of the big piles of snow that you see on the sides of every road left over from all the previous storms. Live Milford, I'm Ken Pierce. Good morning, America. Robin, back to you.
All right, Ken, thanks.
Something that drives through that ice and talk at the same time is impressive. Of course, the road conditions are treacherous all across the country, from Texas to Pennsylvania, in the path of this monster storm right now. And if you're planning to fly today, think again. As we said, more than 11,000 flights have been canceled. Bianca Rodriguez at the smart screen mapping the travel mess. Bianca?
Good morning, George. What a difference 24 hours can make. Let's take a look at the storm right now. Actually, you can just look outside that window because it's right above us right here, and it definitely is affecting air travel, paralyzing it. Take a look at the contrast. This was yesterday. This is a normal, typical day. 31,000 flights are out. This is today. Take a look at that again. Yesterday, today. 60% of all flights were canceled. Yesterday we said about 3,000 were estimated to be canceled. We can only be so lucky. Nearly 12,000 flights canceled. Take a look at some of the hardest hit airports. O'Hare, we have 2,500 flights. LaGuardia, over 1,000. Dallas, nearly 2,000. And it is wreaking havoc. You want to drive? Not a good idea either. Take a look at Dallas right here. Severe road conditions where Sam is. Also severe Ohio. They're dealing with snow, ice on the roads. And then you go back to the Northeast, and of course we're feeling it here. It really does look like I Am Legend on the roads, and people should stay home and actually be very, very, very safe at home as well.
Okay, Bianca, thanks. Now let's get back to Sam in Chicago. Sam?
And let's make sure we get everybody's weather in this morning. Let's get to the boards. One or two things we've got to show you right off the top. And first of all, in this idea of the snow kind of continuing to move into Atlanta, into the North Atlantic, it basically will become a little bit more of an icy situation there. This low drives in, and the best news we have for this low is it's off the coastline by about 7 o'clock tonight. That's very good news. A quick look at who gets ice today in the Northeast. This is accumulating ice, and this will be a real issue. And this will stay because temperatures will stay cold. Behind this air mass, we're getting to near zero in Chicago all the way to Kansas City. We'll talk more about that in the next half hour. That's the weather around the nation. Your local forecast is just 30 seconds away. But first, here's your wind chill forecast this morning, brought to you by Whisk Laundry Detergent.
A mud stain, but new Whisk sees a particulate stain. With our breakthrough stain spectrum technology, Whisk is engineered to fight all the major stain groups, like particulates and oils.
That lip gloss is so cute on you.
You'll never look at stains the same way again. For a powerful clean against a full range of stains, use new Whisk. Fight stains with science.
Well, good morning, everyone. A reminder that a wind chill advisory is in place until 11 o'clock for the morning hours. We're talking about these areas in pink right here where wind chill values can be anywhere between 20 and 25 below zero. That's something to keep in mind as you head out to certainly bundle up dangerously cold temperatures and wind chills setting up. Now, keep in mind, clouds for the morning hours, single digits, but becoming mostly sunny as we go towards the afternoon. 7 degrees for the daytime hours, winds backing down to about 10 during the afternoon.
And as this storm pulls east to the northeast, the big forecasting day becomes the ice situation and the brutal Arctic air to follow. Robin, George?
It is not over yet. Okay, we're going to turn now to the power struggle in Egypt. Protesters are marching again, not satisfied with President Mubarak's promise to give up power after elections later this year. President Obama seemed to weigh in on their side last night, saying that Mubarak's transition must begin now. But Mubarak is holding firm, vowing to die in Egypt, and some of his supporters now taking the streets too. There have been clashes today. Christian Amanpour is right in the middle of it all in Cairo again. And Christian, in what could be the most significant move, the military, which earlier put pressure on Mubarak, saying they wouldn't confront the protesters, is now calling on the protesters to go home.
Well, that's correct, but they're not taking any action that we have been able to see. But what has developed today, and you can perhaps hear it, there are pockets of pro-Mubarak supporters who have come out on the street to try to say yes to Mubarak and we don't want him to go. What's clear now is that after Mubarak has said that he's not going to stand for election,